And so that's why there's so much warfare, just like there was, this is like round 2.
Yes.
What happened in the Roman Empire. We are now dealing with it. And so this is to arm believers, to strengthen them, to reveal, whoa, you're not just imagining, this is actually happening. What you're we were talking before the program, that even non-believers are saying, well, this is demonic. Well, it's actually exact, it's precise.
Are you confused by the gender confusion, the gender madness that we're seeing right now, including in America's schools? Jonathan may have the answer to it in his brand new book, The Return of the Gods. We're going to go back to a member of that dark Trinity, Jonathan, the goddess, the enchantress, and her role in some of the gender madness we're seeing right now in the United States and the Western world.
Yeah, there was another side to this goddess called Ishtar or Ashtoreth or Inanna. And that was something strange. She says in the Tower, I had looked at the actually ancient inscriptions to see this. And she says, I am a woman, I am a man. It says in a hymn to this goddess, it says she's the one who has the power to turn a man into a woman and a woman into a man. She is the one who does now. Now it's amazing because this has been growing until we are right now where we are. But it all began also in the 60s. The first part is she's going to seek to defeminize women. She's going to seek to masculinize women. And that's the spirit in the culture. I mean, in every way, you don't need a man. You compete with a man. That's what she did. She was a goddess with actually masculine qualities to her, a fighter. She would compete with men. So you see, and which also tears apart marriage. So all this is all together. And with that, she also is going to feminize men. And so that's what you take away the lead. There's a spirit that hates men and there's a spirit that hates men if they're leading or whatever it is. And if a woman acts masculine, the society applauds it. If a man acts masculine, then he is condemned. That's something that's really strange, but that's the spirit of the goddess. That's what she does. And she's been doing it. She's doing it to children. She's doing, boys are being trained this way. Girls are being trained this way. In every way, this has affected our culture. That's just the beginning of her transformation.
Well, children, Jonathan, at the age of 4 or 5 years old are being told today that they can choose their gender.
Yeah.
Whether they want to be a boy, or a girl.
This is Ishtar.
And Ishtar.
This is the spirit. And, and it started out like that. And now it started out originally just saying, hey, be more like this one. Now it's come to this. She had a priesthood. The priesthood of the goddess was this. Listen, it was men dressed up in her temple as women. Those were the priests. And they would go around acting as women. And so she is the goddess of androgyny, not combining male and female, blurring the lines between that. It's part of destruction. And that's what she did. And so you have now again men dressing up as women. That's the return of the goddess. Is that you used to have that in the pagan world? You had it really central.
And now this is prevalent in the pagan world.
Yeah, exactly. And now we don't realize it's been out, but now it was the gospel that stopped us. Now it's back and it's all over. That is the spirit of the goddess. And not only that, now we talk about, you were just alluding to it, transgenderism. Listen, she was the god of transgenderism. She actually kind of morphed between male and female. She had an assistant that went to male and female back and forth. And actually, her priests many of them were surgically altered. They actually were surgically altered, which affected their hormones and affected all the things that are happening now. Those were her priests. And you remember we talked about the spirit, what happens when the spirit comes back? It's worse. Well, back then, that was the priesthood. She's seeking to do this to an entire generation of children.
To children.
That's how it's even more than it ever was. She actually had people dancing in front of her, some of these transition people, with scalpels, celebrating this. This is back because the gods are back.
Children in America right now in real time. Folks, we told you this book was explosive. Jonathan, you did not exaggerate. It is a book for our times, and you need to pick it up. For a gift of only $25, you can have it. You see the information there on your screen. I can't recommend the book strongly enough, again, for such a time as this, to make sense of the times we are living in right now. Perilous times, Jonathan, no doubt, but Bible times as well. And we will talk more about that before we're through.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Return of the Gods also reveals an ancient mystery. We've talked about New York City a few times.
Yes, this is good. Yeah.
But we have another NYC component.
That's right.
Break that down for us.
Yeah. All this that we have that has transitioned basically America.
No pun intended.
Yeah. America, the Pride movement, the Rainbow, all the gender movement, all began in New York City. And there was an event. It happened right nearby where we are. And it was basically, there was police raided a bar that was of same sexuality. And there was a revolt, a riot. They called it Stonewall. Every parade you see goes back to that as a celebration of that. But what is amazing is that when you look at that night, all the signs of the goddess were there of her return was in that night. And there's so much that I can only just touch on some.
And this was 1969.
This is 1969, the summer of 69. There's so much here. I'll give you an example. The ancient texts say that the goddess, where she kind of rules, is in the Eshdam. Eshdam was the bar or the tavern. Stonewall is an Eshdam. It's a bar. It's a tavern. That's where she was. And that's where she reigned. One of the signs when she comes into battle, when the goddess comes into battle, she rides lions in her mythology. In pictures, lions. And she puts her head on the lion. She puts her foot on the lion's head saying, I am so powerful. I'm on the lion's head. The lion's head, the first thing you would see would be the lion's head. Well, before this happened, this war, it was basically a culture war. It was going to happen with the goddess. The first thing that appeared on that street was a place called the Lion's Head, right next to Stonewall. Then Stonewall came. And there's something called, we speak about in the ancient times that there were like priests or priestesses who would be filled by these spirits, they'd be avatars in a sense. Well, there actually was someone, there's a person who triggered everything that night, and it was a woman, and it's a mystery woman, and she actually triggered the whole revolt. And that woman embodied the goddess Ishtar. All the characteristics of that. Ishtar was called the storm. It says, you are the loud, thundering storm. You are the storm. The woman's name was Storm. Or Stormé. Wow. I'm just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
There's something called the dance of the goddess, that when she's at war, she dances. There's a dance. In the middle of that riot, a dance breaks out. And they actually, the men who are dancing as women are actually chanting words that go back to the tablets of Ishtar on that very night.
And by the way, they were attacking police during these riots.
They were trying to set the bar on fire with the police in there.
Another theme we see, unfortunately, in modern America, police being targeted. Take us back to ancient times, to biblical times. And again, just so people know, this was not some fringe movement in those times. No. This was prevalent throughout pagan society. Christians were an outlier at the time. And a hated minority, to be honest, in the early days, especially of the Roman Empire. This was, if people can understand what Jonathan is laying out, the dark Trinity, the enchantress, the possessor, this was the dominant force in the culture at that time, the dominant quote unquote religious force of the times. And this was mainstream, everything you're laying out.
And it's coming back. And that's why we're saying, like, what is this? What is this? All the things that were there are coming back. And even this, I'd even mention the night of when this all began, when all the Stonewall, when all this began, was the exact, even the timing was according to the ancient Babylonian calendar. It happened on the weekend of the full moon, happened by the summer solstice, happened in the days of the goddess. Without even going into detail, it all happened. Actually, the date of this was actually sealed on a day that, according to the ancient Babylonian calendar, says that day is appointed to cast a spell to cause a man to love a man. That's when it was all sealed. And so it's all, it is, beyond anything that anybody could have made up. And it's not that these people knew what they were doing. We got to pray for everyone, and we're all in the same boat. But they didn't know what they were doing, but this was the return. This is all like clockwork, the way this is happening.
Jonathan, this is your 7th book. They've all been runaway bestsellers. You specialize, and your anointing is in, I would say, unlocking ancient mysteries and making them relevant, showing the parallels to today. I believe this is, and this is the author of The Harbinger, folks, and The Harbinger 2, and The Paradigm, The Oracle, many more. I believe this is indeed your most explosive book. Simple question, but I think important. Why did you write this? Why did you feel compelled to write this book right now?
Because we are, every single person who's watching television today is being totally affected by this, one way or the other. Has to deal with it in one way or another. And that is that, whether it's family members, whether it's sending your children to school, they're being indoctrinated, whether it's religious freedom, because we're going to get to in the next part about what the gospel has to do with Christians. There's an agenda there for that. So we need to be strong. Now, I knew when I wrote it, Lord, to write this, it's touching. But you know what? If we don't stand for truth and in love, but if we don't do it, this freedom we have is going to be encroached and encroached. The gods only have one agenda. And just like back then, you hit it on the head. The Christians were outliers. They were, on the fringes. Well, that's exactly what's happening right now. And yet the gospel is the power, the power that actually undid this. And so that's why there's so much warfare. Just like there was, this is like round 2. Yes. What happened in the Roman Empire. We are now dealing with it. And so this is to arm believers, to strengthen them, to reveal, whoa, you're not just imagining, this is actually happening. What we were talking before the program, that even non-believers are saying, well, this is demonic. Well, it's actually exact. It's precise. We're going to see, I think in the next segment, how even the decisions of the Supreme Court happened exactly according to the goddess's calendar.
And we had a big one recently, obviously, with
Roe v. Wade. That was a good one.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
It gave hope.
And even, I'll just throw one last thing in there. Even, we talked about, all these things came back to this thing they called Stonewall, and it celebrated the Stonewall. Well, in the ancient writings of the goddess, it says, calls the god, you are the stone that breaks the stone wall. And that night they were trying to break the stone wall. So this is exact. It's real. These are real because God is real. And we are in this battle. And it says we don't war against people. We war against principalities. But God wants you to be victorious. We are not on the defense. No. We are to be on the offense. And we are to be like the apostles were, because they dealt with it too.
Yes.
At TBN, our mission is to use every available means to reach as many individuals and families as possible with the life-changing gospel of Jesus Christ.
Thank you for helping make the gospel of grace go around the world.
Without you, we couldn't do it. God bless you.